Hello everyone. Welcome to a new chess video. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to beat your opponents in a really convincing way with the legendary King's Gambit, which is definitely one of your absolute favorite gambits of all time. And I'm not surprised, it's a fantastic gambit and very hard to defend against. I'm going to show you how to win, whether your opponent takes the gambit pawn or not. So this video is going to be spectacular and super comprehensive. Let's start by seeing what happens if, instead of capturing this pawn, right, they decide to defend it. A lot of people say, whoa, they're trying to trick me, so I'll just defend the pawn and nothing'll happen. Well, don't worry, because like I said, I'm going to show you both ways to win. And actually, both ways are beautiful and spectacular. So beautiful, in fact, that I'm sure someone has noticed, like this new chess set we have here, which our friends at ChessArt gave us. Obviously, whenever I bring a new board to the channel, I'll leave a link in the description in case any of you want to get one. They're only available in Europe, and if you use the discount code ChessTeacher, as always, you'll get a discount. So you'll find that in the description. Let's get to it. Now, you might wonder, how should we react if they defend the pawn? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. We're just going to keep continuously putting pressure on the e5 pawn with our pieces. Advantages of the King's Gambit. We're going to be able to launch a very powerful and decisive attack along this file right here. The file is going to be absolutely deadly for our opponent because when we castle, the rook will be perfectly positioned right on this open file and will attack the enemy king directly. You'll see. We're attacking this pawn with two pieces, so they have to defend it. Perfect. We'll keep developing our pieces in a really consistent and solid manner, moving the knight over to c3, then bishop to c4. As you can see, it looks like an Italian opening, right? The only difference is this white pawn right here, which moves forward from its starting square to the f4 square. A radical change. We can see that here, our opponents could play, for example, this really annoying pin. It's one of the moves I run into most often in my games. So what are we going to do? Are we going to chase the bishop away? No. Are we going to try to block with our already developed bishop? No. Are we going to stop the knight from jumping here to d4 so the pin puts a lot of pressure on us? Well, no, we're going to castle. We're simply going to castle. As you can see, our opponent is still way behind in development. He simply hasn't moved out either of the two kingside pieces. And for example, here he might be really tempted, I'm telling you because I see this a lot, to play knight to d4, a move that obviously looks really strong. This knight is pinned by the bishop, I put pressure on it with the other knight, and now what do, chess teacher? Don't worry, because this is a pretty common mistake. What are they doing? They're pushing their pieces too far forward before they've even finished developing. So here we already have a winning tactical shot, because this King's Gambit is just amazing. Bishop takes on f7. We're about to win the game. Why is this move so good? Well, simply put, if they decide not to capture this bishop, then we've won a pawn for free. And on top of that, we're going to capture here, open up the file for the rook. It's going to be well defended. Perfect. However, here the only move that seems to hold on is to accept this gambit. And why did we give up the bishop? Do we have any counterplay? Obviously, of course. We're going to jump in and give a check with this knight, so that this undefended bishop will end up being attacked by our queen. So check, and if the king moves, we'll take the bishop. But here, my friends, I'm going to tell you something that's happened to me in quite a few games, especially online. A lot of people think, well, if I'm going to take your queen and you're checking me, I'm just giving you my queen for your knight, right? And then when you capture mine, I'll capture yours. However, when we capture their queen, we're giving a check to the king, and here they have to resign immediately. We're checking the king, they have to move aside, and then we capture their bishop. So we win the queen, and we also win the bishop. That's why, obviously, here, after this check with the knight, the tactical idea of queen for knight doesn't work. You absolutely have to move the king. So how are we going to continue? Well, logically, we're going to capture this bishop. Let's recap. We have an extra pawn, the pawn we won on f7. But that's not all. Our opponent has lost castling rights, which is extremely important because now their king is stuck in the center for the rest of the game. And most importantly, now we're gonna win pretty convincingly. Something our opponents often think is, well, I lost a pawn, but I'll get it back here. And not only that, I'll win your rook too. Don't worry, no matter what they do, we're in a much better position. But I'm going to show you how to win this because it's super easy. A lot of you are probably thinking, well, let's bring the queen in here, right? Maybe give a check, but that wouldn't be a good move because they could just block it. All right, here we're going to capture with the pawn. We're going to make this pawn exchange, but not with the idea of bringing in the queen like many of you are thinking, but rather to open up the file for the rook. And here there are going to be 1,001 tactics. A simple way to win that you'll come across many times. Pay attention. Rook takes bishop. A very simple exchange sacrifice. Because now, when they take the rook, we simply bring in the knight. Knight to e6, check, and I'm going to take the queen on the next move. All right, chess teacher, but what happens if, when I play the king's gambit, they take my pawn? Because obviously, I find myself in thousands of games where they take my pawn, and if I don't know how to continue, I'm going to lose the game. Don't worry, we're going to play knight to f3 because this is really beautiful. We play knight to f2. What are we threatening? Well, if our opponent gets distracted now and plays a move that has nothing to do with the position, just making something up here, okay? Knight to c6. So we're going to play d4, all right? Now, we have this strong pawn center, and we're currently threatening this pawn right here, and I think we're going to end up with a truly and fabulously good game for us. We have the center, our bishops develop beautifully, our rook is going to have an open file. That's obvious, right? What's the correct move here for black, if you know? Huh. They can't let us carry out this comfortable plan because then we'd be right at home. So here, the correct move is to defend this extra pawn you have. Yeah, it seems like a risky move, but it's the right one. Plus, it defends this square, it can come to threaten the other knight, and it looks like everything is covered. So, chess teacher, if they don't play this move here, I already know I played d4 and I'm in great shape. But what do I do if they play the right move? Since nowadays, a lot of people already know what the good moves are. Well then, pay attention, okay? h4. We're gonna break up our opponent's pawn structure. And you're gonna love this, so watch how it continues. First of all, can they defend this pawn? Well, if they try to defend it with this pawn, they've lost on the spot, because after the exchanges, this rook is left undefended, and we would simply capture it. That's why this pawn can't be defended with a 6. Yeah, right. It also can't be defended with c6, and now I'm going to explain why. Before that, I want to explain to you what the correct move for black is, because here, black only has one correct move. The thing is, it's hard to figure out. The correct move is this pawn advance, attacking our knight. If they play the correct move, what should you do? You should jump here with the knight, attacking this pawn that they just advanced. And on top of that, we have a fantastic position. We're going to play bishop to c4, targeting the square. We're also going to play d4, threatening the other pawn that's no longer defended. So, in conclusion, we have a really, really good position, right? This is what we're going to do if they push the pawn, which is the correct move. However, I've come across very, very few games where they actually push the pawn. If they do, you already know what to do next. Most people see that a 6 isn't possible because of the exchanges, and try to defend the pawn with the move f6, which might be the most logical move in this position. How should we continue? Well, this is very important. A big mistake for white is to capture with the pawn. Why? Because then black would recapture with their pawn, and their structure would be perfectly fine. The correct and winning move here, pay attention to this because it's going to fascinate you, is knight takes pawn, sacrificing the knight. Chess teacher, are you going crazy? Yeah, I'm always going crazy, as all the channel subscribers know very well. But here we have a winning continuation. In other words, we've already won the game here. And you should learn this like it's a song or a dance, because from here, you can deliver checkmate. It's easy, it's quick. Well, it's not exactly easy or quick, but if you memorize it, you're gonna win 100% of the time because it's a guaranteed mate. First, we bring in the queen. That was the entire strategic point of sacrificing the knight, since our opponent has pushed their pawns on the king side forward way too aggressively, consequently leaving significant gaps for our queen to launch a decisive attack. Possible moves for black here, there's only one. This one right here. First, what are we going to do? We're going to capture this pawn, okay? We're going to capture this pawn. The king can go back, and here black might think, well, if they come here, we'll just keep repeating the same moves and it'll be a draw. Careful, careful, careful. When they go back, yes, that's right, you should give this CH, this check again. But why? So that the king moves forward, there's no other option, and now you give this check on 5. It's important, okay? You should memorize this or watch it as many times as you need. It's actually simpler than it looks, alright? It's pretty simple. Where can this king go? As you can see, it only has one square, this one right here. No more than that. And now we bring the bishop to c4. All we've done is give a check, take the pawn, check again, come here, and now bring in the other bishop to give a check. The king only has one square again. It wouldn't do any good to move up to d4 because we capture the pawn, or sorry, to d5. So the king can only come here, and checkmate gets closer and closer. It's as simple as giving this check on 5 with the queen. The king can only move to one square. Which square is available here? Well, he can only move to the side, as you can see. Well, he could also go back, which seems more efficient, but we just give this check with the queen, and now, yes, he has to move to the side. It's that simple. A lot of you will say, obviously, I should bring in this bishop. Yes, but if we play d4 right away, we're giving the king time to escape. So first we give this check, right? The king has to move. I give this check again, and when he comes back, now d3 or d4, either one is checkmate. Obviously, they could block with the queen, but even then we'd capture, delivering a brutal checkmate. If this variation seemed too long to you and too many moves to memorize, don't worry, I've got another great solution for you that you're gonna love. Knight to f3. And when they defend the pawn, instead of playing bishop to c4, which is what we just saw, a great solution, I'm bringing you another great solution, knight to c3. Really good move. Yes, we're allowing this pawn advance again, which seems pretty dangerous, and now it looks even more so. Let me explain why. Since we don't have this pawn in front, they're threatening our knight. This knight has to jump forward, but now it looks like black is winning. How, chess teacher? By bringing in the queen. They forced our knight out, and now they hit us with this check, and it seems like we're forced to start moving the king toward the center and block our own pieces, something that looks terrible. Because if we play g3, as you can see, the only move that seems to defend, then they'd capture here, and we can't recapture, since we lose the rook. So, chess teacher, why are you recommending this line to me if it looks like I'm completely lost? Wrong. We're not lost. G3 is a winning move. Black thinks they're winning, but they're not, because now, after pawn takes pawn, we're not forced to recapture. Do you see that? So here, we're going to play a super, super strong move. What move is it? This one, queen takes pawn. This move is wonderful. Queen takes g4. What are we threatening? To take the queen, obviously. So black has two valid options. First, it wouldn't be possible to take this pawn with a discovered check because they'd lose the queen. Do you see it? So the two options they have would be one, to trade queens, obviously, to trade queens, and our position is fabulous. We have much better development. Two knights out. We're going to play d4, we're going to play knight to d5, threatening a fork. This position is fantastic. Black was attacking and hasn't achieved anything at all. So here, trading queens doesn't seem like the best option for black. There's no doubt about that. However, here, there's a move that seems unquestionably the best for black, and you need to know how to continue. It's simple, don't worry. The move is the following, g7, a discovered check. A lot of you might say, come on, chess teacher, are they just giving up the queen? Yes, they're giving up the queen, and in fact, we should capture it. However, they're going to capture our rook and promote a pawn to a queen, meaning they'll have an extra queen. Pay attention to how it continues. Queen takes queen, pawn takes rook, and they promote to a queen. And then, here, black has an extra rook. Yes, however, sorry, we're winning. Why? because that queen can't get out of there. So our pieces will be super effective, while our opponent's pieces won't be able to do anything at all. How should we continue? There are a lot of solutions here. For example, queen to h5 threatening mate would be a really good solution. However, I'm going to give you my favorite because there's a way to finish this off in a stylish way that you're going to love. The move is knight to d5. We take advantage of the activity of our pieces to attack in a fierce way. Pay attention to this. We have a queen attacking in a brutal way, both knights joining the attack, but honestly, these look more like dinosaurs than knights, right? We're threatened in this fork, and our opponent has all their pieces unmoved, completely unmoved. The only piece they've moved is the queen, and even she can't move there either. So what should they do? They have to stop this check, which wouldn't just be check, but checkmate, since the king couldn't escape thanks to our queen. So the only move that blocks it is knight to a6. But we can keep attacking, and in fact, here we have a pretty brutal move to keep the pressure on. The move is as follows. We're going to continue with the move d4. What does the move d4 allow us to do? It's very simple, folks. It lets us bring the only piece we're missing into the attack. Now we have both bishops on the same diagonal. The sample game I just showed continued with bishop to e7, but you'll see this ends in checkmate in a very elegant way. Queen takes bishop, a monumental queen sacrifice. Friends, you don't have to give away your queen, but here we have such a big advantage in pieces and activity that it's just too easy to checkmate even without the queen. Now they have to capture with a knight, and pay attention because knight to f6 will be mate on the next move. If the king moves to f8, bishop to h6 is mate. Fabulous, right? And if the king moves to d8, simply knight takes f7 is checkmate, since the knight is covering the other escape square. Don't tell me this isn't impressive. But wait, because the best part of the video is still to come. What a marvel! I'm going to show you how you can get creative with this gambit to win your games. The great thing about the King's Gambit is that it has so many attacks that you can practically make them up as you go if you play with a bit of logic. For example, we can play bishop to c4 right away. The idea behind playing knight to f3 in our other lines was precisely to prevent the queen from coming in through these weak squares on the king side, right? Because this knight acts as the perfect defender. However, chess teacher, what happens if we allow, for example, with bishop to c4 right away, the queen to come in here to give us this check? Well, don't worry, because here, even though it looks like a really good move, and honestly, it really does, we have an extremely strong move, which is king to f1. Let me explain. g3 is a terrible move. Why? Because they capture us and we can't recapture because we'd lose the rook, right? So king to f1, chess teacher, don't give me a load of nonsense. We just moved the king on our fourth move. Our opponent is attacking. They're threatening checkmate over here. I'm in serious trouble. Relax, friends, relax. The king is on f8, but we can get creative. I'll show you. For example, d4. Where are you going so fast with that bishop? Now that bishop has to move. For example, knight to f3. Where are you going with that queen? Now that queen has to move. And as you can see, if it retreats backward, I'll just show you as an example, we capture here, and our pieces are, well, dancing at a nightclub, right? That's how happy they are. The only way Black's pieces can try to keep up their attack and position here is by continuing to defend this pawn. However, now we have a winning tactical blow here. It's a tactical shot that, if we're creative, will quickly come to mind. Bishop takes f7. It's a sacrifice you should always keep in mind whenever you play the King's Gambit. Obviously, you can't capture this bishop, because then comes knight to e5, check, and we take the queen. Well, our opponent is going to see that this sacrifice can't be taken. That's obvious, right? And for example, they'll play king to f8. All right, they've played king to f8, and then they'll think, well, the only thing that's happened here is that you've just gotten back the pawn you were down. No worries. Stay calm, because here we're going to take advantage of a precarious queen. For example, h3, and the queen is starting to run out of squares. Where can it move, friends? It only has one square available, and that's g3. There's no other option. And so we're going to win this queen in a decisive way. Careful, because now they're threatening to capture our bishop. Do you see it? Why? Because now, if they capture our bishop, we no longer have the fork. But that doesn't bother us at all, because we're going after the queen. Knight to c3. And when they capture the bishop, we're going to play knight to d2, attacking the queen and attacking this pawn with two pieces. Available squares for the queen? There's only one, friends. Which square is it? G6. But now, what happens? Our friends the knights, who turn into dinosaurs, knight to e5, check, and now we're gonna gobble up the queen with fries. As you can see, the king's gambit is spectacular. If we're creative, we're gonna win a ton more games. If you like these kinds of videos, leave me a big like. If we reach, pay attention friends, okay? A challenge. If we reach 400 likes, I'm going to upload a way to win that's also spectacular with another opening I already have planned, okay? So your challenge is to get to 400 likes. If you liked this video and want to see a ton more, subscribe to the channel because there's a new video here every day. See you all tomorrow, as always, friends, in another video. Goodbye.